Okay, good evening lads, welcome back to another video. It's ASD Joe here, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my Premier League predictions. Yes, that is right, the Premier League is finally back on Friday when Crystal Palace take on Arsenal at Selhurst Park. We've got a lot of teams to get through, some of these might be a little bit controversial. Let me know down in the comments if you think I've got one bang on, or if you think I'm chatting out of my arse on some, please do let me know. So with all that being said, I do hope you guys enjoy the video. Make sure to smash a like down below, subscribe, obviously comment your thoughts down below, and yeah, let's get started. So finishing bottom this season, I'm going to go with Bournemouth. Last season in the Championship they came second with Scott Parker as the boss, but this time around I don't think they've strengthened enough to stay in the league. They've got a lot of very good Championship players like Dominic Solanke, who played well in the Championship, but when they make that step up in the Premier League, they've not really lived up to expectations. He's going to have to bang in plenty of goals this season for Bournemouth to stand any chance of staying in the Premier League, but I don't really see it happening. I don't think they've got enough creativity in their team, and I think they're going to really struggle this season. So Bournemouth in 20th. In 19th place, this might be a bit of a surprise to a few, but I'm going to go with Brentford. Brentford have made some interesting signings like they always do, bringing in Keane Lewis-Potter, Aaron Hickey and Thomas Strakosha. However, Eriksen's departure this summer is going to be a big miss for them. And similarly to Bournemouth, they lack creativity in that team. They did pretty well last year, but in the past we've seen teams like Sheffield United and Leeds really struggle in their second season in the Premier League after taking the league by storm in their first year. Now, at 18th place, this might be a surprise for some, and this time last year this would have seemed absolutely unthinkable, but I'm actually going to put Everton to get relegated in 18th place. Last season was a pretty torrid year for Everton. At one point it did look like they were going to go down, but they did manage to stage a late season fight back thanks to the goals from Richarlison. However, this season Richarlison has gone to Tottenham and they've only brought in Ruben Vinagre, James Tarkowski and Dwight McNeil. They were very, very poor last season, and I think their squad is considerably weaker than it was last year, and I think that because of that they're going to go down and they'll say goodbye to the Premier League after being in the top flight for so many years. Narrowly avoiding the drop this season is going to be Fulham. Last season in the Championship, Fulham were by far and away the best team in the Championship thanks to the ridiculous amount of goals from Alexander Mitrovic. In recent years they have been a little bit of a yo-yo club, but this time I think they will survive because I think they've recruited pretty well. Players like Bernd Leno and experienced Premier League goalkeepers should help them. João Palhinha from Sporting Lisbon is also a very solid signing, and they've also brought in Manuel Solomon from Shakhtar Donetsk, who is a very highly rated winger from Israel. I think they have a bit more attacking firepower than Brentford and Everton this season, and that's why I think that they will stay up. Now in 16th place, also avoiding the drop, is going to be another newly promoted team in Nottingham Forest. Forest are back in the Premier League for the first time since 1999. They're a massive club with brilliant support, and I think they'll stay up just because of the occasion. Being back in the Premier League, it will mean so much to the players, the fans and the city, and just the club as a whole. They've also made some decent additions similarly to Fulham this season, bringing in players like Jesse Lingard, Dean Henderson and former Liverpool striker from Union Berlin, Taiwo Awoniyi. Steve Cooper is also a superb manager, guiding them to promotion and really getting the best out of his players after a really poor start to the season. And I also think with their cup run last year, they've really proven that they can go toe-to-toe and beat Premier League opposition such as Arsenal and Leicester. And they also played pretty well against Liverpool as well in that cup run. Now coming in 15th place is going to be the team that finished there last season, Southampton. Southampton were very, very good at times last season, but then they did struggle towards the end and they ended up only 5 points off the relegation zone. They've made some interesting under-the-radar signings like they always seem to do, and I don't think their squad is really that much different to what it was last season. They're a side that like to press very high up the pitch, very similarly to Liverpool of course. and their games tend to be quite exciting to watch, and they have got enough Premier League experience in that squad to comfortably stay up, I reckon. In 14th place, I'm going to go with Leeds United, and this might be a controversial one because I think Leeds having a poor season this year is a possibility, but I do rate Jesse Marsch as a manager, and they have also made some exciting signings this summer. Some people will tip them to be lower down, maybe even to get relegated after key players like Rafinha and Calvin Phillips went to Barcelona and Man City. However, they do have a decent sized squad this time around, bringing in the likes of Brendan Aronson from Red Bull Salzburg, a very highly rated, dynamic attacking midfielder. And they've also brought in Luis Sinisterra from Feyenoord, who is an excellent dribbler and also massively improved his end product in Holland last season. The one concern I do have for Leeds this season is with some of their new signings. They haven't got any Premier League experience, but I think if they give them time and they stick with Jesse Marsch, they will do alright this season, and they can build a good squad and be a stable Premier League club for years to come. In 13th place, doing a little bit worse than they did last season, I'm going to go with Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves' team has stayed pretty similar to what it was last year. They did bring in Nathan Collins to replace the outgoing Roman Saiz, who's gone to Besiktas, and they've also made Hwang Hee-Chang's loan deal a permanent one. They were very, very well organised last season, conceding very few and having one of the best defences in the league in terms of goals conceded, but they were very poor going forward last season, having the 4th worst attack in the league. I think their defensive record is more down to the goalkeeping heroics of Jose Sarr. If you look at their the expected points table, Wolves should have conceded more than they did, and Jose Sarr managed to prevent a lot of goals from being scored last season, which you would expect to go in. This season their luck might run out a little bit. I think they need to recruit more creative players if they want to finish higher, but they will be alright. They will be in the Premier League for another year. Coming in 12th place is another side who I am predicting to do worse than they did last season. And this might be a bit of a surprise to some, I don't know, but I'm going to go with Leicester. I think that Leicester might struggle this year just because there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding some of their key players, such as Wesley Fofana, James Maddison and Youri Tielemans. And they have also lost Kasper Schmeichel to Nice. Schmeichel will be a very big miss for them. He's been at Leicester for over 10 years. He's a very experienced goalkeeper and probably one of their longest serving players, I think. He also looked very, very inactive in the transfer market, which is a bit of a concern. And after doing really poorly last season, there are other teams around them which are strengthening, and I think they might struggle this year. In 11th place will be Brighton, who enter their 4th season under manager Graham Potter. Similarly to Southampton, Brighton like to make quite a lot of interesting under-the-radar signings, bringing in Dennis Undav from Union Saint-Gilloise and also getting players back from loan like the Japanese left wing-back Mitoma. However, I think Bissouma and Cucurella leaving will be quite bad for Brighton this season. Players like Caicedo and Mitoma have got big boots to fill. However, they do have good squad depth, and whilst I think they will be a little bit worse than they were last season, they'll be absolutely fine. They'll comfortably finish mid-table. Now, improving on a 14th place finish last season, in 10th place I'm going to go with Aston Villa. Last season was a very underwhelming season for Villa. They had a lot of optimism at the start despite Jack Grealish leaving after they brought in players like Emiliano Buendia and Danny Ings. And like last season, they have brought in some exciting names, including Boubacar Kamara, Philippe Coutinho, and also Diego Carlos from Sevilla. The reason that I think they'll do a bit better this time around is because Gerrard will have a pre-season with all of these players, and Villa also have a pretty decent sized squad with quite a lot of Premier League experience, and that's why I think they'll improve this season. In 9th place, another team that I think will perform better than they did last season is Crystal Palace. The reason I think Palace will do well this season is because I think their squad is significantly stronger than it was last season, and I also think they have a very well balanced team. I'm predicting players like Eberechi Eze and Michael Olise to be on fire this season for Palace. They've also brought in other players such as Czech Decore from Lens and Sam Johnson from West Brom. and also Chris Richards from Bayern Munich, which is quite an interesting signing. They play good football, they're difficult to beat, Selhurst Park is always rocking, and I think they will do significantly better than they did last season. They'll do well this season for Palace. In 8th place, I'm going to go with Newcastle United, the Geordies. Over the past 12 months, there's been so much optimism and hope surrounding the club which they lacked for a very long time. Last season, they did have a poor start, but once that transfer window did open, they made the right additions to comfortably keep them up. And they also put together a good run of games. This time around, they've brought in Nick Pope, who's a very experienced Premier League goalkeeper, and also they've signed Sven Botman, who's a young centre-back from Lille. I do think they need to recruit more this summer. They've got plenty of money, but they have recruited well in this summer and in recent months gone by, and I think they'll be the best out of the mid-table teams this year. Now in 7th place, this is one of the easier picks for me, but I am going with West Ham United. West Ham have been a club on the up for the past couple of seasons, and this summer they brought in Areola, Scamacca and Azure, who unfortunately has got injured recently in pre-season. David Moyes is also a top manager, and I think they're better than a lot of the teams maybe being tipped for the Conference League spot. They've recruited well this summer, and they've also kept some of their best players from last season, such as Declan Rice and Jarrod Bowen. West Ham will comfortably finish in 7th place this season, and maybe, who knows, they might put in a good run in the Conference League as well. Now, moving on to the top 6, where things may get a little bit controversial, I'm going with Manchester United for 6th place. Last season was a very poor, torrid season for United under the leadership of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Ralf Rangnick. This season, they've got Erik ten Hag, a top coach who worked wonders at Ajax. However, I think this season is going to be a transitional year for Manchester United. They've got some problems going into the new season, with Ronaldo's future seeming very uncertain, and many players that underperformed last year are still there. They have made some good signings in Tyrell Malacia, Christian Eriksen and Lisandro Martinez, but even with these signings, I still think there is a lot of missing pieces in their jigsaw puzzle. The Frenkie de Jong deal is stalling at the moment, and I still think that they need a defensive midfielder, a goalkeeper and a right back. And I'm not necessarily writing them off, but other clubs such as Chelsea and Arsenal have had their managers for a longer amount of time and have developed systems which the players are very accustomed to, so I think they will come sick this season just because of that. Now, at number 5, this is quite a hard one for me to pick, because I think that the teams that I'm going to put in 5th, 4th and 3rd, they could all very easily finish in any of those positions. But at least for now, I'll go with Chelsea, and it could change if they recruit better, but as of right now, I just think that Arsenal and Tottenham are better prepared for the new season and brought in players well adapted to their systems. I don't think Chelsea really have any issues with their setup. I think Thomas Tuchel is a top manager, but I just think they have a few personnel problems at the minute, with quite a few missing pieces in their jigsaw, similarly to Manchester United. They look like they're going to sign Marc Cucurella from Brighton. They've also been linked with other centre-backs such as Wesley Fofana and Josko Gvardiol after signing Kalidou Koulibaly and Raheem Sterling. Both Koulibaly and Sterling are good signings, but I still think that as of right now, they will miss out on top 4. But that could change if they bring in some more signings. Now, the first team making top 4, in 4th place, I'm going with my team, Arsenal. Last season, I do think we would have got top 4, but I think injuries to key players and poor squad depth cost us last season. This time, we brought in Gabriel Jesus, Alexander Zinchenko and Fabio Vieira, and people also shouldn't forget about William Saliba, who's finally playing with the first team at Arsenal. All of these signings will improve our squad depth. They've looked very, very sharp in pre-season, and I think they will be enough to get us over the line for us to finish 4th. As things stand at the minute, Arsenal are trying to get rid of some players, but once we do get rid of some of those players, then it's very, very possible that we could sign more. Now in 3rd place, I'm going to go with Tottenham Hotspur. Last season, similarly to Arsenal, Tottenham had a pretty poor start, but as soon as they sacked Nuno Espirito Santo and brought in Antonio Conte, things changed for the better very, very quickly. Since Conte's arrival, they've played with a 3-4-3 formation and they have stuck with that ever since. They've also recruited well in January and also this summer, bringing in a good mix of younger players such as Jed Spence and Dejan Kulusevski, and a few more experienced players like Richarlison, Bissouma and Ivan Perisic. We also have to mention Son and Kane, who can tear any team in the world apart on their day, and I think because of Son and Kane and the attacking firepower that Tottenham have, I think that will be the difference between them and Arsenal and Chelsea. Now, in second place, missing out on the league title, is going to be Liverpool. Last season, Liverpool narrowly missed out on winning the league after staging a second half of the season fight back to Man City, and they took them all the way to the final day. This year they have lost Sadio Mane, but they still retain great depth up top after signing Darwin Núñez from Benfica. They've also brought in youngsters such as Calvin Ramsey and Fabio Carvalho, who should be very, very good young stars in the future for Liverpool. But I just can't see Man City not winning the league this season. So Liverpool will be far ahead of Tottenham, Chelsea and Arsenal and the rest of the Big Six. But I do think they will miss out on that title. Now in first place, I'm going to put Manchester City because I think they've got the best team in the Premier League. They've also made some very, very good signings this summer. Whilst they've let go of Zinchenko, Sterling, Jesus and Fernandinho, they have replaced them with Calvin Phillips, Julian Alvarez and Erling Haaland, obviously, the main man from Dortmund. I still think that Manchester City will buy a new left-back to replace Alexander Zinchenko, who's been a very reliable utility player for them in recent years. I think they've just got such unbelievable squad depth that no team will be able to stop them this season. So Manchester City are going to win the league for a third year in a row. So there we have it. Those are my Premier League predictions. Make sure to comment where you think that your team will finish this season, and also just comment your Premier League predictions for this season. It's always interesting to see what other people think. But with that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to smash a like and subscribe for more football content. Have a good one, lads. See you soon.